Hi guys, how you doing? It's Dom here from Soundsphere. I just had a wonderful opportunity to chat to Esteban Flores of Slow Joy about the new material that's coming out, Mi Amigo Slow Joy, in June. We go way back into the history of Slow Joy, TikTok fame, and beautiful songs, beautiful emotional songs, and the inspirations behind that. So please go check out Slow Joy, and thank you so much for your time, because this interview has reminded me why I do it and why I enjoy it so much. And thank you so much for your time and energy. I just said that, but really appreciate you for watching this, for consuming this in however you choose to do so, website, whatever. We're really lucky to have you. So thank you so much. Check out Slow Joy, and yeah, thank you for being here. Cool. Nice one. Espen, well, thank you so much for making the time. I've been a fan of Slow Joy for a while. I think a lot of people discovered you through crawling and that sort of, that sort of time. And I know you, Slow Joy means a lot to you. And if you read a lot of interviews with you, you can see like the emotional kind of connection you have with the music. And I know that it was originally, which I don't think is a great story, like it was actually something that came through your work with a counselor, wasn't it? It was a counselor and a therapist that recommended you do music as an outlet. So I wonder, does Slow Joy still mean the same to you? Do you still have the same emotional connection to it? What the from now as to when you started, does it still kind of have that same emotional pull for you,
Sure.
SD?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I would say it's deeper now.
Mm,
As it's lived with me for this long, and it's been kind of my saving grace for a little
mm,
bit. I feel like my love for this thing just continues to grow. As well as like just seeing it through the eyes of people who really care about it as well. And meeting people, I've done a little bit of touring in the States, and it's just been really important, like meeting people in person who like really like connect with this thing, and then people online who like connect with it. It just continues to grow my love for it. I'm just as passionate as the first day, if not a little more.
yeah, man. Yeah, I think like for me personally, like when I hear your music, like it just really like there's such an it's very uplifting. Like I'll listen to it in the car, or and that's been the way since crawling, and now obviously with this new material, which we'll touch on in a bit. And I so like even on bad days, if I have a bad day, like I'll put on some Slow Joy, and I will feel uplifted just by like the chords or the melody, and obviously the lyrics as well. So I know you've got like a family, and you used to, you were working in marketing as well while you were doing Slow Joy, and obviously you tour a lot. So, when you have difficult days, does writing and creating a Slow Joy, does it motivate you in the same way that it might motivate a listener like myself, for example?
Sure. Yeah, it's still cathartic. It's still
Mm,
extremely cathartic for me. I've realized now I have to get a little bit away from the bad day, and
mm.
like go back to it a little bit if I need it. Uh, Sometimes I'll like expect too much out of writing, and like sit down on a bad day and just be like, I need to like, you know, create something that helps me, when like really it's just like I probably need to go outside and take a walk. Um, but it really does. It really has like those songs, and like every song that I've released has like pulled me through some like really tough moments, and I do listen back to them. My the last year played a show on the anniversary, and I didn't plan it this way, it just ended up happening, but on the anniversary of my mom's passing. And
Mm.
it was really hard, like the day leading up to it, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it. And the moment I got on stage and the moment I performed those songs, I realized, I was like, oh, that's what these are for. These are cathartic moments. That's exactly what this is for. And I felt a lot better afterward, kind of just processing through that in a communal, way with like people who are also connected to the music. And it's one of those things where I think I just have like a deep like thankfulness for the music, and I guess revere it deeply.
Yeah, man.
And when I show up to the writing process, I try to stay in that mindset.
Yeah, it's certainly, beautiful work. And one of the things that, I know that you've talked about before, is the kind of you would create art no matter what. If someone was going to see it, or if someone wasn't going to see it, you would still create it. I'm particularly interested because you were taking a break from music. You were making it, you were in bands for years, and you took a break. And then like obviously you had the counseling session, the therapy session, but also like it was TikTok that was your that kind of happened for you. Was it interesting slash difficult as an artist that's worked so hard and grinded so hard to create all these songs for so many years, and then TikTok, which is a fantastic resource, I won't deny, is what actually, should we say, blows up the songs and gets you that notoriety. What was that like as a someone I would define as a proper creative and a proper artist in yourself, to then
Sure.
have that, TikTok, no, I don't want to say fame, SD, but TikTok notoriety, I
Moment,
suppose.
yeah. No, I mean, I honestly, I'll take it. I love it. I don't like, I mean, obviously I don't like the like corporations controlling the means to getting your art to people. Especially if they're like, everybody gets mad at when an algorithm changes or something along those lines. And then now all of a sudden the thing that used to work to connect your music to people doesn't work. You have to change like how you do things. I don't love that. But I do love like the fact that you can connect to someone like instantly. And I mean, it's the same thing as like when, back in the old days when people used to like go hand out, demo tapes everywhere and all that stuff. So I'll take it, because like anything that gave me a community, it's like valuable to me. And like that community is like really important to me. Whether or not it's sustainable for like artists to do that for the rest of their lives is like remains to be seen. But as far as it happening for me in that moment, I mean, I was so used to nobody caring that when people cared, I was like, yeah, I'll take it. This is great. I would have, I mean, if I would have made fans on Club Penguin, I would have done that. Either way.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, I think it was Spotify or something. How I discovered you, but I was like, this is so cool, man. That it worked. Because clearly you had worked your ass off for so
Yeah.
many years as a creative person, and then to have that algorithm, switch you on to so many people. That's really cool, and it's a testament to, if you keep plugging away. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I'm a firm
Sure.
believer, if you keep plugging away, something will happen. It might
Well,
not
and I
be TikTok worldwide fame, but it'll be something.
It'll be something. I mean, I think the other thing to that is like if you keep plugging away, you keep whittling down to like what actually is the reason why you're doing this thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, though I have had like lots of years where I was making music in other bands and things along those lines, I don't think the music was necessarily 100% me. I think
Mm.
it was more like a pursuit. And I think once I was like what you had said, once I'd given up music as like a career choice and just made it for me, that's when it was unique and it mattered. Not in like a sonic uniqueness, but just in like a honest, like people can sense honesty in music. I really do believe that. And I think that's part of the reason why it happened, was because I finally was honest with myself and people saw that and people like connected to that, not the, indie rock wannabe guy in the past. So I think like that is a testament to just years and years and years of like, never giving up, like trying to make yourself a better artist and trying to understand yourself better. Which I probably could have got there sooner if I would have just got my, if I would have just got my priorities in it straight earlier. But like it happened the way it happened, and I'm thankful it did.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And me too as well. As we approach, Mi Amigo Slow Joy coming out, I wanted to talk about some of those songs. But first, I wanted to ask you quite a, I guess it's quite a deep question. How would you say you've changed and developed? Obviously, you wrote those songs at a very difficult time, the early songs of Slow Joy, that kind of that, and it feels like you've evolved now as we come to this new kind of series of tunes. So how would you say, in your own words, you've changed and developed as a person and as an artist,
Sure.
if they're two different things, since the beginning of Slow Joy to where you are now?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the beginning of Slow Joy, the music was specifically about like one event, right? So it was really, really focusing in on like dealing with the grief and dealing with that aspect of things. Um, as I kind of began to grow and began to like, I mean, get some years away from the grief, I realized that like there were other stories that need to be told because they're just as important. And this as an artist, this record and future records are really just going to be like diving into like all facets and all stories. You know, there's music about like me putting myself in the perspective of like my dad's divorce. There's music about me putting myself in the perspective of like someone I don't even agree with, like just like a, you know, just a crazy person who's calling themselves a king cowboy. Like those are important things. And like, I believe a good artist can like put themselves in different stories and tell those stories just as well as they could their own, you know, individuals. And that's something that I think like has grown in me. It's like I've continued to like really like work on expressing like these stories in an important way that like matters to me and hopefully will matter to other people. On a personal level, I think the biggest foundational shift was when I like, okay, I don't want to do music anymore. And then music's like, okay, now you can have it. And now that I have it, I'm like learning to continue to have that like open palm mentality where like if this goes away, I'm still me and I'm still happy. Uh, Especially on the days where like, you know, because everything's quantifiable. If like your Spotify numbers go down, you could have a very bad day as an artist. And like that's ridiculous. That's so silly to like on the grand scheme of things that matter in life, that's not something that should matter. But it does to a lot of people because we're like on these weird like number scales and like that there's days where that like really affects me and I have to be like, hey, you're keep it with an open palm because the connection with people who care is still there and your connection to this music's still there. It doesn't invalidate the music for like, you know, a Spotify playlist not be like happening for this thing or that. And like I think those are the things that I'm learning and I'm growing in and I'm like being more and more thankful for is like this becoming more of like its own like artistic endeavor and not like being defined by, you know, one, you know, algorithmic shift to the next.
Yeah, man, I think that's really cool because you know, you like you say, I think you said it previously as well, that honesty and rawness like comes across in your lyrics, in your vocal, you know, in the way, yeah, I mean, pulling teeth is a great example, you know, going back all the way back to crawling. And I think that is something I wanted to ask, you know, I've kind of deviated because I had a bunch of questions, but this one's
Very
a
good.
kind of,
I love it.
yeah. Where did you find your voice, SD? Because I think that emotion, you know, really comes across when you sing, you know, that you're like, I feel that you mean it. You know, I would never have to meet you to know that. So
Sure.
where did you find your voice? Where did you figure out that you could sing like that? And was it an easy or difficult process?
It was pretty difficult. I mean, obviously it starts with believing in the words you're singing to start off
Mm.
with. I don't think I could deliver something I don't believe in as well. Um, but it really did come from like a lot of effort. I was like, my voice is honestly something that I've been the most, I guess ashamed of. I was like not a very good singer for a long time. I was always just around people who were like much better than me. And like, I just didn't have like your classic choir boy, like sing at a church kind of voice. And I thought that was a bad thing forever. It wasn't until recently that I realized it. I was like, oh, this is like something that like it is me and it is something that's important to me. And if it's not perfect, that's great. Like that's what we want. Like my favorite singers are like Isaac Brock and you know, and Caleb Followell and like these like these people who are like not your typical you know singer and like I've learned to embrace that the I guess the non-smoothness elements of what I do. I've learned to embrace that aspect of it and that has been like a lot of work and a lot of effort. But it's really it's something I'm really proud of.
Yeah, man, you should be. I think it's a great vocal, but again, that rawness, I think that core to your message from what you've said in previous interviews is that real, you know, you really feel it. And I think that you can tell. And I think that's a beautiful thing as a listener. So, you know, I appreciate that and respect your vocal anyway.
Oh,
Um,
thank you, such an
yeah.
honor.
No, absolutely. A few more questions now then, SD. Obviously you mentioned King Cowboy, and we'll talk about the other single, Pulling Teeth, in a second. But like when I heard that, I was like, I know people like that, the King Cowboys in every sort of town, village, wherever, right? And you know, really, really cool track. But I found myself humming it and then singing it in the car, and then thinking of certain people. So like when you were writing that, which and it was obviously going to be on Me Amigo Slow Joy. When you were writing that, what were you thinking about? Were you thinking about specific people, or was it like, you know, just a kind of a metaphorical person, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved stories of like people critiquing things in a way that doesn't sound preachy. I think like nowadays, artists can get on like some like preachy higher, preachy music, which is like we've heard it, we're sick of it. Like we know, like you don't need to tell me that the world is messed up because I know the world is messed up. So I was like really interested in like that dialogue, but from a like a fresher perspective of like, hey, what if I'm the kooky person and like I write it from that perspective, but like everything is going away, kind of a like MGMT time to sorry, MGMT-esque, where like you're talking about being a star and then all of a sudden at the end we're like we'll choke on our vomit, and that's the end. Is like I wanted to like do that in a way that critiques like things that I think are messed up. Like I don't think like the typical American dream is like a great dream. I think it holds people back. And I think like if I just said that, it was like the American dream is bad. Like that's a preachy like BS thing. But if I like created a world where this guy, believes so deeply that everything he's doing is like the best thing, like he's not a cowboy, he's the king of all cowboys. And he and he wants to like run away and like raise kids who like hate their lives, which is like not a thing you should ever want. But to say that boldly was like really interesting to me, and I thought that part was really fun. And then so I wasn't thinking about anybody like particular. I was thinking more of like the things I didn't like and
Yeah.
how to like champion them almost.
Yeah, man. No, I like that, and that, obviously, pulling teeth is also a part of that record. These have come out well, in terms of an indication of what people could expect from the EP. Why lead with these tracks, and kind of what do you want people? I don't want to ask you what do you want people to take from it because I guess it's down to interpretation. But leading with these tracks, what can people expect? Listeners expect from Mi Amigo Slow Joy as a whole?
Sure. I mean, it's definitely a shift from Wildflower and the music before. It's a lot less like shoegazy. I think I was there and I enjoyed it at the time, but now it's time to kind of shift into some new soundscapes and new worlds, and like to expect more of those stories, more things in line with like just looking at new perspectives. I mentioned earlier like there is a song about like me putting myself in the perspective of my dad going through his divorce, and me
Hmm.
uh, another one where I'm critiquing the society and like things along those lines. But they're never from a like point your finger at perspective. They're mostly from a I'm just trying to understand it, and I'm showing people how I'm trying to understand it in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of like it's a piece of art in the moment. You are capturing a moment in time for you as an artist and as
Absolutely.
a person as well. Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
what I think. I mean, that's what I think it should be. I think all art should be this you putting the moment into like solidifying a moment so you can always look back at it. I caught a little bit of flack on pulling teeth initially because people were like, "Oh, you're like a terrible spouse for like feeling these feelings." And I was like, "Well, no, this is a moment. Like you're supposed to grow from it." But I wanted this like I wanted to feel like, "Oh, hey, I'm so thankful that you haven't given up on me even on my bad days."
yeah.
Because everybody feels like that someday. And
Absolutely.
you don't want to stay there forever, but like you do want to like remember that so that you never forget the thankfulness you had.
Absolutely. And that's a really interesting perspective. And thank you for that because it gives kind of a new, I'm going to go back and listen to that with new ears now,
Yeah,
reflecting on it. So I appreciate that. Two or three more, SD, then.
totally.
Obviously, you've mentioned, I know, previously about, kind of books and movies and games, like a lot of different stuff inspiring you as we approach the release of this record and this collection of songs. Is there anything, I see a collection of vinyls, for example, and things like that. Is there any music or people, places, specific things, movies that are really inspiring you, or again, that you can pinpoint and be like, wow, that was a real inspiration, motivation to me at this time?
Absolutely. I right before I went into the studio for this album, I had never done the I had never gone back to like the heroes of alternative rock. I had kind of just like listened to like what was happening, which is why I think Wildflower in a lot of ways sounded like semi-current, semi kind of like just doing what's happening. And for me, Amigo, the reason why I feel like it feels like a big step away from that is because I for the first time went back to the like the heroes, like you go to like Pixies and Nirvana and Modest Mouse and like all of these Smashing Pumpkins and all these like fantastic rock bands that like created like I mean in the 90s they straight up just paved the way for like all of these subgenres to like exist.
Mm, mm.
um and that was like my first time I've ever gotten to like experience those records for myself. And like
Yeah.
that's why these records sound the way that they do, is because like I finally for the first time like listened to like what made this genre that like matters to me, and took from that, as opposed to from people who took from that, who took from that, who took from that into that stage. I think those bands really inspired me sonically. I also got really into just like reading a lot of poetry, and like I think like getting into Bukowski for the first time is like massive for me. Like I was never a reader, and now like I just like like deeply hold like these tongue-in-cheek like authors who like are just, I don't know, I always call them like Isaac Brockian like just snarling at people authors. I think that has been really important to me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it makes me want to go and read some Bukowski now. So I get motivation from sitting and talking to you, SD. In
Oh, I love
terms,
it.
yeah, in terms of sort of winding up, then one of the things that's really interesting about the way that you've recorded and is that you have a kind of a revolving door of musicians, and obviously you've got tour dates coming up. I might ask you potential tour dates in Europe and the UK in a minute. But
I want you to know that.
yeah, but with that, this kind of revolving band lineup, is that the way you want to keep doing it? I know you have people from flying up from all over the US to come and jam with you and tour with you. Is that the way that it will continue to be, or do you have any kind of temptation to firm up a band lineup for touring, or do you prefer you creating and then kind of sharing the vision, as it were, with other
Sure.
people?
Sure. No, I think the creative element of it, like song creation, will always stay the same. Because it is just like so personal and it
Mhm.
matters to me. I think I love including people like there are drummers in my life who will play drums so much better than me, and I will never play drums on a record ever again, because like these people are just so much better. And I was like, why would I do it if someone else could do it better? And I'm
Mm.
sure that'll happen later too, is like if like a guitar player comes in and like is incredible guitar player, like when I'm in the studio, I'm like, yeah, you should definitely play these parts. But as far as like the creation of the music, that will always just be, me working on these songs, like, and like kind of championing that for what like makes sense for my like individual expression.
Yeah.
uh I mean, I will co-write with people, but it won't, it's always just like, I think Slow Joy, the like the I think the gift of Slow Joy to me is the fact that I can be so personal with it, and I can like continue to like drive that ship, and that matters to me to like continue that. um as far as like solidifying a live band, like that would be really cool. I think as it grows, we'll continue. I'll like have my like more go-to guys, because I just like being around my friends.
Mm.
But at the same time, it's like, when you ask your friend to leave for a month and not see their family, it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to keep it fluid, so that they can have the ability to say no, and it not be, detrimental to anyone. And that's
Yeah.
important to me too, to like give them space to like, this is a dream. Like this is to like leave your house and go play in front of people who care. It's like a huge dream. And like, I'm thankful that people get to experience that with me, but I'm also thankful when they're like, hey, I did it, and now I want to stay home for a little bit. Like that's great too. Like I want that for them too.
That's a lovely thing. Yeah, it's a new perspective on it. Again, like I hadn't really thought about it like that. Yeah, because I guess you're kind of going like these people are your friends first, right? And that's kind of what I'm getting,
Exactly.
is they're your friends first. So actually, you're just as happy for them to stay at home or come on tour with you, right? Which I think is
Exactly.
that's a lovely
I,
thing.
I want them to be where they want to be. That's what's most important to me. Is like, you're my friend, and if like you want to experience this, that's great. If you're tired and you want to be home because the road gets hard sometimes, that's fantastic too, because I just want you to be where you want to be.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for sharing that, because again, it's a lovely perspective, and it obviously shows that you care about your mates and your friends. We've reached the end today, Essie, which is where we sort of test whether I've done my job properly. Is there anything you'd like to plug? I'm gonna sort of you know any UK tour dates potentially, but is there
Nothing.
anything else you wanted to plug before we finish?
No, I think you hammered it. That EP comes out in June. I'm really excited about that. Hopefully UK dates soon. I every time someone asks me, my response is so quick. It's that is a literal dream of mine, and as soon as I as soon as I get the call, I'm going. I have terrible flight anxiety, but I will brave the 8-hour flight to go to the UK because I'm so excited to try it.
Absolutely, man. Is there anywhere you particularly want to go? Is there anywhere that you just have always dreamed of going?
I mean, obviously, like being a little Texas boy and not knowing a ton of it, like I would love to go to like London and see
Mhm.
like see the big city, like,
Yep.
but I'm sure there's like a lot of other spaces. I just haven't been that far away from like America, so just experiencing a new culture in general sounds amazing. This was
Yeah.
I got my passport for the first time in my life this year because I'm going to Canada, so it was like
Yes.
that shows you how much I've traveled in my life.
Yes. Oh no, I'm so excited for you, and have a great time in Canada. But also, yeah, I can't wait to see you potentially over here soon, Esty. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. It's been an
Thank you.
absolute pleasure.